know, that song has some cross-generational themes in it. You know, a grandfather looking at himself in the mirror when he was younger, carrying a baby and all those things. And it just raises the question of parenting, you know. And I was growing up, TVs didn't open until 4 p.m.
And they shut after the news?
No, before it opened, I mean, school closed maybe about 2 p.m. Between that time and 4 p.m. we had lunch, had exercise, homework done, and all of that. And then we had enough time to roll tires on the streets. But today,
there's no rolling of tires.
And for those of us, maybe even one or two of our guests may have played Omolere where they were growing up. Do you know what Omolere is? You don't know. It's a football, plastic football that we played with back then. But today, the plastic footballs are on iPads, on phones, and all of that. So it's a digital age, and there's a lot of escape rooms for children. How parents are able to navigate, that's a tough work. So that's the conversation we want to have this time around, parenting in the digital age. And we have two people join us this morning. BC Ajayi Kayode is a child protection specialist and legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
As well as Chief Yomi Otubela, who is National President, National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, it seems like growing up, every student has two parents, madam. Let me begin with you. The parents, biological parents or guardians who they lived with, and the teachers who have to take care of them and all of that. It's a delicate job, isn't it?
Sure.
So navigating it, especially in this digital age, is definitely a tough work. Have you been able to maybe think about how the two generations are different? You know, parenting in the analog age, if I can use the term, and parenting today in the digital age.
Yeah, the experience and the challenges are quite far apart. That's why organizations like ours, the Chechera Foundation, we are trying to bridge the gap. In the analog generation, everything is physical. On your way from school, you see your parents. Even when you see your teacher coming, you're already scared. You've not done anything wrong, but you just being on your guard. What could be happening? And whatever the parents or the teachers say is law. But things are quite different now because parenting is on many platforms now. That's why we advocate sex education, adult awareness training for parents at the Chechera Foundation. We have what is called the third parent, peer group pressure. We have social media, we have religious organizations, we have other professionals that are parenting children in our day and age. And if we are not careful, our children will slip through the cracks. That's why we are speaking out vigorously at the Chechera Foundation to ensure child protection. There is what is called the NEMAT culture. And you may not understand or comprehend the NEMAT culture if you don't know about child development. The way you parent, the different stages of child development, the way you parent a child 0 to 2 years is different from the way you parent a child 2 to 5 years, 5 to 7, 8 to 11, 11 to 12 or 13, and of course the grandmasters, 13 to 18. At 0 to 2 years, they're still kind of dependent on you. You understand? They are moving around. But immediately a child starts to walk or talk at that age of 2 years, you need to be on your guard. You need to teach them about their various body parts. Because some people are saying, at what age? Because if you don't start at that age, and they see something online or social media, and they keep it a secret from you, you virtually lost that child. You don't use the word sex when you're dealing with children 0 to 2 to 5 years. You tell them about their body parts. Your mouth is for you to talk to it, not for somebody to kiss you on there. And then you tell them about their private parts. Also, no, just normally like other body parts. Because in the analog generation, it's demystified. Your parents will not tell you anything about
Nothing.
until you start your menstruation. They will even tell you if you mistakenly shake hands with a guy, you'll get pregnant.
Yes. Yes.
But things are different now. And once they start asking you questions, you are evasive, you arouse their curiosity, they go to all these other platforms, the social media, parental, peer group pressure, schools, religious organizations to learn. So the best thing for a parent is that you must be the first and the last bus stop of parenting.
Okay. Now, Chief, many parents are what Ayo has described as analog. We were looking at this topic together this morning, and I said to him, Ayo, I am computer literate to a certain extent. But all the things I've been hearing since the Chrisland story broke from people like her who do things like she does, and other people who are in that space of the psychology of children and all that, how this device can make or mar a child. It can determine what a child is going to be tomorrow. And I say, how does a parent like myself, or a parent who is even worse than me when it comes to technology, how do they keep up with these children when they don't even know? Because yesterday I heard a lady saying, oh, you can do this on their phone and do that, so that everything they do on their phone is connected to your phone. So you know exactly what they're doing at all times on their devices. I mean, isn't that a bit too much for a parent to keep up with? Suppose you have 4 of them. How do you keep up with all that as a parent?
Yes, good morning, Nigerian, and good morning for having me here. Let me start by saying that we are in information age where both parents, children, teachers, guardians, we've got to be committed and dedicated to the act of parenting. There is no excuse whatsoever for anyone who is handling Android phone to deny the fact that we are exposed to a whole lot of adult content, unsolicited messages, even as an adult, let alone the children who are going to handle this. And if you don't teach them, if you don't tell them, you don't blame them. It is our responsibility as adults to teach these children. Then how do we get them thoughts if we don't have this information? That takes me back to the fact that I started with the fact that we are in information age, where information is available at the click of button to everybody. So it is the role of parents, guardians, adults to seek for knowledge, to seek for information in order to guide the young ones.
Let me punch a tiny hole in that, sir. That adult has a life. That adult has to deal with economic challenges. I remember, this is a funny story, maybe just on the side. My 15-year-old, some 7 years ago, I don't know, we were having a conversation, he just said, Daddy, if you know what I'm going through. I said, what are you going through? Well, I know that you will argue that she's going through a lot, but are you paying house rent? Are you buying food for yourself? Are you paying your school fees? What are you going through? When I spoke with the psychologist, that they said, okay, the child is having her own going throughs as well, and granted. But that parent has a lot to deal with. Has a boss, a difficult boss to deal with, has a pressure group from a landlord, has his or her own pressure groups and all of those things. So to her question again, keeping up with those challenges, and while at the same time performing the function of parenting multiple children, it definitely is an onerous task, wouldn't you say?
I totally agree with you. And that has not excused any parent from leaving that aspect of our responsibility to an external person to deal with. In as much we are going to cater for our own feeding, cater for our own daily needs, parenting children is part of the core of any adult, especially parents. Let's leave that aside. I was talking to some set of teachers recently, and we begin to try to put side by side the way we are parented, the way punishment and discipline were meted to us when we were growing up, and vis-a-vis what is obtainable today. And today there are laws who have safeguarded children from being abused under the pretense of being disciplined. We need to know that asking a child to lean down in the current day is part of an abuse. Then we've got to know that there is a whole lot in our hands to keep seeking for information, seeking for how to discipline these children, including how to handle digital gadgets.
You just made it worse, sir.
How?
So if I ask a child to kneel down, it is abuse.
It's an abuse.
And that's the way I was raised. Oh. I became disciplined as a result of that.
The same way.
It didn't turn out too bad.
And well, so far, madam, he has made it worse. Clearly. I mean, he is right. Child Rights Act, all kinds of child champion, rights and authorities and stuff like that. So we'll still come to the education part of it, but raising the children in a way that they are expected to be disciplined, while at the same time excusing certain acts of discipline that we grew up with. Not be being so.
Yeah, but what I would say is that the challenges of being a child during our own time is different from what we have now. Because a lot of things happen to children nowadays, and most of them bear the burden alone. No platform to express their fears, their concerns, and their confusion. And the parents, in the course of trying to be strict, you want to follow the status quo. You don't deal with you're dealing with a human being, not a machine. You deal with children in an age-appropriate and developmentally sensitive manner, as we advocate at the Chicheyera Foundation. We have a child helpline, a 24-hour toll-free child helpline, 0800-800-1, the very first children's telecommunication in Nigeria. And you'll be shocked the kind of questions that these children are asking. That's why if you don't know your child, you don't have effective communication lines, you'll not be able to respond appropriately. That's what we call responding responsibly. There's something that's called digital empathy. A child, maybe, these days they give them assignments in school, go to this website, and a pornographic site drops in. The child is scared. If I tell my dad, if I tell my mom, they will beat me. Because oftentimes the way we raise children is quite dysfunctional. I think I understand where each angle is coming from. I'm a lawyer by profession. Your child comes to you crying. What happened? Why are you crying? No, let's say, why are you crying? My teacher beat me, or Auntie A beats me. The next question is, what did you do? Not what happened. You've already violated that child's fundamental human rights. You've already given that child the impression your interest is secondary to that of the adults, which contravenes international instruments, the International Child Rights Convention, the Child Rights Act, and all that. And even on the religious platform, it's a sin. That's the way I see it. Because whether as a Christian, as a Muslim, when Adam and Eve, they had the forbidden fruit, God asked them, why did you do this? I told you not to do it. Of course it's God. He could have just pronounced judgment. So if God could respect the fundamental human rights of people, so why don't we uphold the fundamental human rights of children? That's digital empathy. They should be able to come to you and without being blamed or shamed. Because oftentimes when things happen, it's the children, that child is bad, blah, blah, blah. They're not looking at the adults. What are the surrounding circumstances? You just don't pick an event. And that's what we do at the Chicheyera Foundation, providing a holistic and comprehensive support for children, all at one stop, not take them to the police station today, health care. We have social workers, child helpline counselors, forensic interview experts, lawyers, psychologists, child psychologists, to elicit information. The atmosphere with which you guide a child matters. you are perpetrating domestic violence against your spouse, how do you expect that child to trust you? Or the child finds out you are lying, or you are coming to the house with all that tension. Okay, you've not paid house rent. Instead of you using your hand to open the door, you use your mouth. You shouted all over everybody. So what do you want that child to do? The child will look for a more peaceful, more child-friendly atmosphere, non-threatening, where he'll be able to become a child again. I've told you different stages. That's why we go to schools under we have a child safeguarding and protection and program, Safe Kids Awareness Prevention Program. We let them know private are private. Some children don't know that they have rights. Children are not just recipients of instructions and care. They are government agencies and that should be respected. They have their rights. See, you cannot discipline a child that you're not taking responsibility of. The rights to life, health care, to be treated with dignity, food, nutrition. A child is hungry, you're telling the child to keep quiet, is making sense. You're not making sense. And there's a whole lot of confusion out there. What we have in this present generation are undisciplined, untrained children who are now parenting.
Okay. Well, Chief, you know, what started this whole conversation, of course, is not unknown to you, and I know that you put out a statement recently about that one as well. You know, there is an argument put out by a psychologist that while we cannot excuse the role of parents, students or children spend more time in the schools while up than they spend with their parents, who maybe come in much later in the day after the lectures at 8, from 8 to maybe about 2. There's after school, maybe for another hour or so or 2, and then they go home, maybe play a little, sleep, and then the parents come. They seem to spend less time with the children than they spend in schools. So there's the balance of parenting by the parents and maybe parenting by the schools. So I'm wondering, you know, where do you think we missed the balance here?
The whole scenario is actually confusing, just like the last speaker said. And there is a role that's needed to be played by government and government agencies in setting and implementing and applying some certain rules that will guide work ethics, work condition for parents. A situation where an average parent get home by 9 or late in the night, where they spend little or no time at all on children, is going to turn around to affect the society, because these children will grow and they will turn to become undisciplined children who are now turning to be parents very soon. Yes, the children spend much time in school, and that is why the responsibility of teaching is becoming so much on the current teachers. And sad enough, the society has not recognized the role of teachers in nation building so much that respect is not given to teachers as expected. The remuneration and welfare package for teachers is not even enticing enough to want an average student to say, I want to become a teacher, in most cases. So this is a whole lot of societal problem that we all, including media, need to begin to put information, reminder, refresher courses out there for everyone to do. In schools, we have what we call safeguards and child protection policies. As a matter of fact, Lagos State is doing so fantastically well in that area by organizing refresher courses and asking people to adopt these policies to their own domestic environment to ensure that not only teachers, not only non-teaching staff, but even visitors and artisans that visit schools are made to sign these safeguarding policies, so much that every corners of the school we have it pasted that people can see the roles and responsibility of an average adult in child care. You see, we need we talk much about challenges we face in Nigeria these days in our country, and we've forgotten the fact that education, which is the bedrock of any society, is the one bridging this gap by building the children to be adults of tomorrow that will take care of our country. So in schools, we try much, but I must say the gap is so wide between the realistic scenario and the idea, I mean the perception that we all crave for. So the way out going forward is first and foremost for us to know that if we must adopt the Child Right Act as been conversed for in larger society, we must also do it right by providing support for schools, providing support for parents. I have not seen where parents who have lost job is being supported by our country by providing social allowances to take care of this family. Okay. And when this family lost this, it affects the children and it affects the society at the long run.
Let's speak to the technology part of the Constitution. We've talked about the human relations and all, but Alero raised an issue the other time that where parenting in the digital age is an issue because perhaps the parents themselves are not digital natives. They are digital immigrants. They walked into it. These children are born into it. You may have had experience where you are struggling to devise how to use a particular technology. Your child has already gone in.
So many times.
And all of those things. So parenting in the digital age is such that you could be the one who owns the device, taking it all around, and your child has hidden something in it and you don't even know. So what are the balances that you think schools can provide to help the children know their boundaries, in using these things and take those lessons home?
The first is that we should not deny children access to this digital gadget. We shouldn't deny them access to technology and internet. Denying them is postponing the evil days. As a matter of fact, I will advocate that rather school, which is an agent of socialization, should provide support for parents during PTA, parent forum, whatever name is called, by bringing experts to teach them basic needs on how to use internet, safe keep in internet and all that. There are informations that are just coming out immediately after the saga of a child that was caught in immorality. And the information is all about that. If a child must use a gadget, such gadget must be registered in the family email address. So much that when that child launches into that gadget, the parent can monitor remotely both the time spent on this gadget per day and the site visited per day. So when children know that their parents are their friends on this social space, on the social media space, then there is this cautiousness that comes into the mindset of every child that know that my parent is no longer far away from me. Wherever the parent is, they can monitor what they do. Secondly, I also want to say we can manage the time they spend on this internet and social media space because that can also be controlled remotely. And if they are limited to 2 hours per day for doing assignment, as a matter of fact, where some schools are not allowing children to use gadgets, I must say here that it is totally wrong, because either we open them to it now or later they will definitely be having access to it. And what we can do is to monitor, control the kind of gadgets that they find in their possession by limiting the sites that they can visit. Okay. This has been practiced so well in so many schools that the sites that children can visit are limited to those that will help them in advancement of knowledge and education.
Chief, you said the school should arrange how to teach these children how to use those gadgets?
By inviting experts.
Yes, that's from the point of view of the children. What about the parents who are supposed to do the monitoring? Who is going to organize how to use those gadgets?
Through PTA forum, I said that.
Teach them how to use those gadgets.
Through PTA forum. We have parent-teacher association meeting that comes once in a term in every school.
Once in a term?
Once in a term.
So you want a parent to come and once in a term she's going to learn how to use those gadgets?
I'm talking about
Not likely.
Control on the use of gadgets, not how to use the old gadget.
She has to know, he or she has to know how to use it first before she can then apply the controls that are required.
No adults. I repeat, every adult use this gadget. You use one. To some limitation, with some limitation, yes.
Plenty of limitations.
Well, madam, you want to speak to that one because it's one thing to protect the children. It's another thing altogether to know how
to do it.
Yes.
Especially in the digital age.
Yes. I'll still go back to prevention awareness training. First and foremost, as a parent or as a teacher, you have to be a first-class citizen on the social media platform, because I notice most parents, apart from WhatsApp messages, official emails, they don't know what's going on YouTube and all that. You need to be empowered yourself as a parent. There's what is called digital footprint, digital identity. You can name your child Kate, and she's bearing Freezy on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
We've seen underage children having, I know a man that came crying that said, I discovered my daughter has 20 Facebook accounts. And she said each one is for each boyfriend. So if you are not knowledgeable in that area, if you don't have the training like we do at the Chichiyara Foundation, and then it's not only the child that is traumatized when it comes to all this exposure to pornography. Even you as a parent, if you don't realize that you are facing second-degree trauma, you need some psychosocial support on how to get adjusted to living a normal post-abusive life. What we have is that most parents just explode. Don't wait until it happens. Prevention. Empower the children. You can't guarantee that they will not stumble on it, but let them know that this is bad. Any videos that anybody asking you to show naked parts, to talk different parts, that's what we teach at the Chichiyara Foundation. Body boundaries, my head, my shoulder, pant rules. Private are private. Always remember your body belongs to you. No means no. Talk up. Yes, PANTS.
Okay.
You make it child friendly, and then they'll be able. Because I've seen a child come to the mother and said, the mother came home. The child was standing at the entrance of there. I said, "Why are you standing outside?" Said, "The house girl and the nanny, they are watching what children should not watch." So such a child is already empowered. How many will you monitor? But then at the same time, you have to be up to the continuous training. And the best alliance is for, like he said, parents and the school to come together. Okay. Under the facilitation of professional organizations, child-focused organizations, and Chichiyara Foundation.
I learned a new term today. Second-degree, what did you?
Trauma.
Trauma. I just knew trauma. So there's second-degree trauma. So you are not the one affected, but you are indirectly affected.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, oh, you're quiet. All of a sudden. Bisi Ajayi-Kayode, Child Protection Specialist, thank you so much. He's also a legal practitioner, as well as Chief Yomi Otubela, National President, National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Well, as we often say, this is just a conversation starter. You've heard a number of things today. I think I'll advise that you just begin to take caution on how you're going to learn to use technology to protect yourself from second-degree trauma. So we're back after now for another conversation. Please stay with us.